I just remembered, relative to the vaccinations, I forgot about part of that decision-making sequence. Part of it is that you make a decision that's one step, and then a few days, a couple weeks later, you make another that's part of a overall sequence. Then after a couple 3 months, it all blends together, and you're thinking you're making all those things one right after another. But I know the whole thing started for me with Elder Uchtdorf saying, yeah, we're going to make the missionaries get a vaccination. I thought, well, yeah, if I was heading out on a mission, I'd expect a vaccination and would follow right along with what the church wanted, particularly if I'm going to be their representative. Then it shows the First Presidency and I think the Quorum getting their shots. I thought, well, yeah, if I was traveling the world doing that, I'd be probably for getting a shot. And I'm thinking, but we live basically a sequestered lifestyle up there on the hill. And then you go, and so if we do go somewhere and we social distance and mask, I'm thinking, well, those are that, given everything, I'm still not willing to be a guinea pig on this vaccination stuff. So we'll just wait and see. And then there was I don't remember if it was something on YouTube, but I think it was relatively recent. They had some physician that was basically saying, hey, we don't need all this vaccination stuff. We got this hydrochloroquine or whatever that stuff was. They gave Trump that knocked him out in 3 or 4 days. And so I thought, well, that is good, credible medical perspective as far as I was concerned. So that pretty well reinforced the fact that we're just going to wait and see, not worry about it. And so had decided that, thought, well, we'll let some other people be the guinea pigs before we do it, given all those things together. And then the First Presidency Quorum of the 12 came out, in my opinion, said, we fasted, we prayed, we think this is the answer, and we encourage everybody to get a shot, find out for yourself, and check with your medical practitioner if you think you might have a medical issue. And that, to me, that goes along kind of with fasting. You don't fast if you're going to get hypoglycemic or something. So anyway, and so, I mean, like I said, that's the first time where what my plan was 180 degrees from where the council was. And so that was really an interesting experience to have to make that much of a turn, not just a nudge, but a 180-degree turn, which really comes back to, I thought that was interesting when you said you figured we would not be ones getting vaccinations, which was totally true until the First Presidency and Quorum of the 12 came out, and then we made an about face, and that's what drove that. So I think your initial perception was absolutely spot on. But, and this is what I want to find documented, because when I think it's on some stuff about being deceived, where it says if you get the First Presidency and Quorum of the 12 all lining up together, that is good as gold. You'll never be deceived. And that's the principle they're operating off of. That was what that was. And so took that, so we're not going to be deceived. Follow the prophet to the point of if it didn't work and you die, I'll stand at the judgment and say, yeah, the reason I'm here is because I followed the prophet. I think that's an excuse that I think I'm be willing to give. So anyway, but I want to find that. Geez, I haven't looked at that in writing for a while and want to find that. But I think it's in some instruction on being deceived, that you will not be deceived if you line up. Like I said, if President Nelson came and said, based on my medical experience, yada, 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 you ought to get the vaccine, that still wouldn't have been good enough. I'd have said, okay, he's talking as a physician. Like I said, if he came out and said it was my medical opinion, I'd take that other lady's opinion over his for a couple of reasons. One, he's been out of practice, for a while. Number, he's a cardiologist, not an immunologist or whatever it was this lady was. So I would have taken her medical opinion over his. But his wasn't a medical, I'm sure that factored in, but it was prophetic as a prophet with 15 other prophets. And so, anyway, but I don't think I told you the prelude of how and why. Well, yeah, how and why we hadn't decided. And President Uchtdorf of the missionaries wasn't good enough. The First Presidency and their calling wasn't good enough to make a change just because they got shots, but then coming out with that statement, then doubling down, a couple of weeks ago, just reinforcing that. It's been nice. I mean, I have had no angst whatsoever over the last months because of that. Whereas I think if I'd have been waiting, I'd have been waiting, should I now? And so it's been nice to have no mental energy whatsoever consumed on the issue since we got the vaccinations. So anyway, that was good. I had kind of forgotten about that first part when we started the conversation. So like I say, I've enjoyed the conversation. It's been good because I actually think I'm going to write that up as a kind of like a journal thing to come back to, because it's really a pretty unique position. I don't remember the First Presidency and Quorum of the 12 coming out together specifically on something that specific, and if they did, that I wasn't 99% there in the first place and didn't really need a whole lot of their input. And so I think I'm going to record that as something to fall back on in remembering, because I'm sure we'll have a few more of these things the way the world conditions are, where we're going to have to follow the prophet on stuff that doesn't make sense. And I think a lot of it, and you mentioned it, is I think a lot of what they're doing is trying to not get in the crosshairs of the government, some of these crazies now, and make it look like, hey, we're basically on the same team. And I think that could be certainly a large part of it, and I'm okay with that. That's the prophets lining up saying that's what to do. Well, that's what the Lord's saying to do as to how to navigate our times. And it might be a way to just have more time to do more of the work preparatory to what's coming, and I'm good with that. Kind of reminds me of, it's like this huntsman guy that's decided to apostatize from the church and is suing the church to get his tithing back. He wants $5 million of tithing back because they said they were going to spend it on churches and temples and whatever, and they spent it on the shopping center downtown and other frivolous stuff. But they said that wasn't it, and so I want my tithing back because they lied and they made fraudulent statements. And then he's got some investment guy that was in charge of the church's account there at Ensign Advisors that said, yeah, they referred to everything they were spending on these things as tithing dollars. And so I'm thinking, first of all, a couple of traitors, frankly. But more importantly, my philosophy's been, and actually I was raised with this, my dad taught us this as kids, is you pay your tithing, and if the church decided they want to burn the dollars to heat the church office building, that's their business. We've done what the Lord's asked. And I've adopted that philosophy. I could care less what they spend the money on in that sense. It's not my job to look over their shoulder and decide whether or not it's justified or not. To the point, if they wanted to use the money to heat the church office building by burning it, I'm good with that because I'm right with the Lord because I paid it. So, that's another thing. You have too many people that are, as President Lee said, he said, we don't need more prophets, we need more listening ears. I'm thinking, that is so true. We just need a lot more listening ears. And more than listening ears, we need obedience. I mean, as far as having a testimony of the prophets, well, that's nice, but that doesn't really mean much because you go in the Bible, the devils even had a testimony of Jesus, and that didn't stop them. It's a matter of putting it into action, which is the difference between testimony and conversion. Lots of people have testimony. Take half the inactives, they're running loose around. They all have testimonies. No, we don't want our names removed from the records of the church. Yeah, we believe in the church. We're Mormons. We just don't believe in doing anything about it. And so there's plenty of that, but getting a true conversion where you adopt it into your lifestyle so that you become what those principles help you become. That's what it's about. So the fact somebody has a testimony is better than if they don't, but if they don't do anything with it, well, so what? So anyway, so much for the editorializing. So we'll talk to you later.